I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
What if I told you that one of the most influential voices for young conservatives in America has built a platform on statements that many critics call racially divisive, xenophobic, and outright dangerous? This isn't a figure from the fringe. This is Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA, a regular on Fox News, and a powerful force in the MAGA movement. With millions of followers and a massive media reach, his words carry weight. But what exactly is he saying? And what is the real-world impact of this rhetoric? Stick around, because today we're diving deep into the archive, breaking down the specific, controversial statements Charlie Kirk has made about Black Americans, Hispanic communities, and immigrants. This isn't about political spin. It's about examining the quotes, understanding their context, and asking the critical question: is this just conservative commentary, or is it something more sinister? First, let's establish the playing field. Charlie Kirk didn't emerge from nowhere. He founded Turning Point USA as a teenager with the stated mission to organize students on college campuses for free market principles and limited government. There's no denying his success. TPUSA is now a multi-million-dollar organization with chapters across the country. But as his profile grew, so did the controversy surrounding his statements. Kirk has mastered the art of the provocative soundbite, often delivered with a confident, matter-of-fact tone that belies the deeply contentious nature of the claims. His defenders argue he's simply a fearless conservative, telling hard truths that the woke left doesn't want to hear. They say he's being unfairly maligned for challenging progressive orthodoxy. His critics, however, argue that his rhetoric consistently crosses a line from conservative critique into the territory of harmful stereotyping and demographic fear-mongering. So, let's look at the evidence, starting with his comments about the Black community.
I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the
you
game
wouldn't have
theory.
done
Kirk's
that.
commentary on Black
you wouldn't have done
Americans
that before.
often revolves around a few key themes: downplaying systemic racism, criticizing Black Lives Matter, and making sweeping generalizations. One of his most repeated claims is that the American dream is equally accessible to everyone. In a 2020 interview, he stated, and I quote, "The country is not rigged against anybody. There is no system of oppression." This directly contradicts decades of sociological research and the lived experiences of millions of Black Americans regarding housing discrimination, the racial wealth gap, and bias in the criminal justice system. But he goes further. He has repeatedly argued that the Democratic Party is the real racist party, a classic piece of political rhetoric. However, he often couples this with attacks on policies designed to address inequality. For instance, he has called diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, or DEI, a cancer and racist. He has described affirmative action as modern-day racism. Perhaps one of his most inflammatory habits is his commentary on majority Black cities. He frequently points to cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Baltimore as examples of democratic failure, often using crime statistics to paint a picture of utter lawlessness, while conspicuously avoiding any nuanced discussion of the historical and economic factors like redlining and deindustrialization that contributed to these challenges. This kind of rhetoric reduces complex human communities to nothing more than cautionary tales, reinforcing negative stereotypes and ignoring the resilience and vitality within them. If his rhetoric on Black America is criticized as dismissive, his language surrounding Hispanics and immigration has often been described as overtly xenophobic and alarmist. Kirk is a staunch advocate for hardline immigration policies, but his framing often moves beyond policy debate into demographic fear-mongering. He has repeatedly promoted the Great Replacement theory, a white nationalist conspiracy theory that claims there is a deliberate, often Jewish-led plot to replace white populations in Western countries with non-white immigrants. While he often uses sanitized language, the core idea is the same. He has said, "The left wants to change the demographics of this country," and warned that Democrats are importing new voters to gain a permanent political majority. This framing does two dangerous things. First, it portrays immigrants not as human beings seeking a better life, but as political pawns and invaders. Second, it inherently suggests that non-white voters are illegitimate and that their presence fundamentally changes America for the worse. His specific comments about Hispanic people often lean on stereotypes. He has argued that immigrants are diluting what he calls the American national identity, a concept that is rarely defined but implicitly seems to exclude those of Latin American origin. Furthermore, he has made sweeping, negative generalizations about majority Hispanic nations, often calling them corrupt and violent, to argue against accepting their citizens as immigrants or refugees. This type of rhetoric dehumanizes entire populations and fosters a climate of fear and hostility, which critics argue can inspire real-world violence and discrimination. Now you might be thinking, are these just isolated comments? But when you lay them out, a clear and consistent pattern emerges. The common thread is an us versus them worldview, where us is a narrowly defined traditional America, and them are various minority groups portrayed as threats, problems, or political tools. This isn't just about offending people. This rhetoric has tangible consequences. 1. Mainstreaming extremism. By repackaging ideas like the Great Replacement theory with more polished language, Kirk helps bring once fringe conspiracy theories into the mainstream conservative conversation. 2. Radicalizing audiences. For a young, impressionable audience, being told repeatedly that their country is being invaded or replaced can foster deep-seated resentment and fear, which is a powerful political motivator but a dangerous social toxin. 3. Shaping policy. This kind of rhetoric creates public pressure for increasingly harsh and restrictive policies, from banning books that discuss race to supporting extreme border measures like mass deportations. The American Civil Liberties Union and the Southern Poverty Law Center have long warned that this type of demonizing language creates a permission structure for discrimination and violence. Of course, to be fair, we have to present the defense. Kirk and his supporters would argue that we are taking his words out of context. They would say he is simply advocating for secure borders, which is a legitimate policy position. They argue he is highlighting the very real failures of progressive policies in inner cities and standing up for the principle of meritocracy over what he sees as racial favoritism. They frame the criticism as a political attack, a way to silence a powerful conservative voice by labeling him a racist. They claim he is talking about ideas, not people, and that his critics are the ones who are obsessed with race. This is the core of the debate. Is Charlie Kirk a truth teller, courageously discussing difficult topics? Or is he using the language of policy and principle to veil a rhetoric of division and demographic anxiety? If you found this deep dive insightful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content that goes beyond the headlines. Thanks for watching.